Okay. I have a sore back or something. Okay, because I noticed you walking, and even like last time, and even now, you were a little. Okay, good. I know. Okay, when you can, you know what I mean? It's fine. To announce it once in a while. Yeah. Maybe not today.
No,
next week. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah. I definitely agree. Thank you for. Hi, ladies. Got another full house here. We're getting started. Oh, there we go. Hi, ladies. Oh, look at that. My love. Okay. Hi, Hannah. So as we're getting started, well, hi Judy. Oh, hi Sharon. It's so good to see you guys. Oh, 2 people are in the waiting room. 1 second. Let me see if I could do this. I could do this. Okay, waiting room. Are they in? Oh God. I think I got it. Let Katie in. Okay. Hi Gloria. Hi Katie. Hi guys. Okay, so just wow, I wasn't sure if anyone was gonna come out. I don't know. I mean, I didn't feel like getting out of bed this morning, so I don't know. But this is really special and beautiful, and hopefully we will get a little bit of learning done today. But I think it's only appropriate to start just kind of processing a little bit together, because as everyone walked in, I said, how are you? And everyone did the same thing. They're like, So we're not doing so great right now. Let me let Dean in. So I asked Gadi to stay in to share a little bit. Before we even start, I just want to make a public announcement. That's okay. We have a new initiative at the L'chaim Center. We're full of new ideas. So this is a toolbox that carries mezuzot, scrolls, kosher scrolls that are written by a scribe on parchment, animal skin, right? And there's different sizes, there's different types of boxes, waterproof, indoor, outdoor, and all the tools. Yes, yes. So turn behind you. Everyone look over there. There's a, thank you, Julie, for putting up new flyers. So we have mezuzah house calls with Rabbi Gadi. So this is a new program that is going to be here forevermore at the L'chaim Center, that whenever somebody needs a mezuzah, right? Because mezuzahs actually have to be changed, I think maybe twice every 7 years, once or twice every 7 years. That's how it is. Yeah, it's kind of like getting your oil changed on the car, right? Like you need to like put a sticker like when you need to remind yourself, because over time letters chip. And very often, I mean, we should never know this, but very often, God forbid, when tragedy falls, they look at the mezuzah and they see that, oh, there's a letter missing. The mezuzah is there to protect us. This is our spiritual protection. So yeah, the scroll. Like when you say mezuzah, like when people go to Israel, they're like, I'm gonna buy a mezuzah for a gift. They're usually buying like the gorgeous wooden silver mezuzah. This is just the case. The mezuzah is the scroll which has God's name written in it. It has, if you guys want, I could actually pass it around. Here's a kosher cloth, which is parchment, like animal skin, with God's name on it. And this is it's the chapter, the Shema, the mission statement of the Jewish people. And whenever we come and go, we're supposed to just put our hand up and just touch it. Just a little kiss or, sorry. Oh, okay. Hopefully COVID times are over, but in your own house, like it's like I'm saying, you're responsible for your own mezuzah, at least on your front door. Like we could work on every door of the house as time goes on, but just make sure you have a kosher mezuzah on the front door. And we do house calls. We do house calls. Isn't that amazing? Our first customer was Liz, and Gadi will make a blessing. And if someone is moving to a new home, you just want to make sure that they have a kosher mezuzah. Like this is actually, it reminds me of like, you know, the mezuzot in Egypt. Like the angel of death passed over the homes that had blood on the posts, right? This is like, we put this is kind of a symbol of a Jewish home. Very embarrassingly, when I was in Portland, this is kind of embarrassing, and I'm not judging. I'm not making any judgment. When I was new to Portland, and it's a very assimilated community, the Jewish community. And I went to deliver challah to one of the ladies that I just came back from Israel with. So she gave me her address and I texted her. This is me being really, really naive years ago. I texted her like, I'm at the address, but I can't be your house because there's no mezuzah on the front door. So I felt really stupid because she's like, it is my house. And with it, that day I called Gadi and I'm like, come get a mezuzah. And so Gadi put it up. So that's how this whole initiative started, because there's a need. And by the way, kosher mezuzahs, like if you go on Amazon and you buy mezuzahs, so they're printed on paper. Many of them, they're not kosher, so it doesn't do the same, it's not the same power. And that's how this actually started here. Angie Donnenberg called us. She said, I need mezuzahs. I went to 2 stores in West Rogers Park. They were all out. They said there's a shortage of mezuzahs right now. And so she said, I'm going to just order some online. So she went and bought them. And then she said, Gadi, could you just check them? And Gadi looked at it. He said, it's not kosher. So we returned them to Amazon, and Angie Donnenberg actually donated, she donated $1,000 to get this project off the ground, to buy the stock, because they're quite expensive. They're about $50 a scroll, like to have a really good quality one. So we have stock now, and it's always going to be here, and everyone could utilize this. You know, we're not making any money on this. It's a service that we're offering, just like we always have chicken soup and challah for you to take. Now we have mezuzahs. Okay, so. Yeah. You're right, 100%. Yes. Yes.
I have to be careful to do it, but I want to hear
Oh.
that the prices are fantastic. Because if you go to Israel or somewhere, a handwritten, it can easily be $200. It's really expensive. So these are really very interesting.
Right. Well, we get them at the source. So we're we have connections in Israel. So when Gadi and I go to Israel, we bring them back. So we're getting them at cost and we're providing. No way, Faham. Seriously? You're so out of character today. Yes.
I moved into my condo. I invited all my girlfriends to a mezuzah party. And you can do just, the mezuzah was kosher because I bought it, and then I actually put it on. I'm not taking away words from you, but then we had 35 women and everybody bought something to eat and we had a mezuzah party.
I love it.
And it was a lot of fun and I had no furniture. So we were dancing. It was great.
So
So if you ever move or remodel and you can have a mezuzah party and remember Hannah and invite me.
It's awesome. Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Is there. Her husband's there today.
I want to. It's not what you put out into. Yes.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
really, really.
Yeah. I think we're all going through a crisis, and I think what's most important is first to acknowledge that and to not try and push it down. I think we're going through it was like, Larry was speaking this morning. It was like it's one of those things that go into our minds and like, how, I know. Okay. It's like going to go that yesterday is going to go down. And first of all, I think, and I speak on behalf of everyone over here in that this was like one of those. It was like almost like September 11th experience in that we felt like, Ukraine or the Middle East or I don't know if we ever felt like it was, how could it ever happen in our backyard and on our streets that we drive every single day, we own stores that we go shopping, and like it is a very disturbing experience in that, number one, where are we safe anymore? Where are we going to be? Where can we be in play? What kind of experience can we have if the next time? And I mean, it wasn't just walking down the street. It was a major event, and there was so much security, and our sense of security has been jarred. I think that's the first part that we need to just give ourselves that we're moving into a new reality, right? New period, really got a new period for people for people in our community. It's never going to be the same again. That's really where it's at. It's never going to be the same again. And so we need to give space for that. That's one. Number two, we have children, we have grandchildren, and these are not, we are meant to be the ones that are supporting them and creating safe spaces for them, and you know, when you're a child, you trust your parent to such a degree that there is that. I remember one time when I had my tonsils out, I remember going into surgery, and the last moment, the last image was my father standing there by the door, and like I felt okay because my father was there, you know. And now we're meant to be that. That's what we're empowered to do, and there are things that we're powerless over. So we also need to give space for that. Undoubtedly, there are going to be those of us who are going to have a spiritual dilemma, a spiritual challenge in how can such cruelty exist with a caring, loving God that we believe He is. That is something that we're going to need to give space for as well. How can such cruelty exist? And this is not the place, and this is not the time either to try and deal with that, because when we're in a place of pain, I remember I was in Israel. In the 90s in Israel, they were going through the period of the peace process between Israel and Jordan, Israel and Arafat, and Israel and Egypt, and not Israel and Egypt, Israel and Jordan, Israel and Arafat, and there were bombs being blowing up in Israel. And I remember the government was very strong. But the first thing that the government would say when the first comments after a tragedy happened, they'd find the prime minister, they'd find people on the parliament that would say, what are your comments? And the first thing they would say, we're going to stay with our peace. And I don't think that is a reaction that we need to have right now. Meaning when tragedy strikes, we need to be in a place of absolute empathy and a place of extreme sadness. And just be there and allow that process, allow that emotion to process. We need to allow that space for it, not to shove it underneath the carpet and not to try and ignore it and not to avoid it. It needs to be something that we're going to be okay with that. And we don't have to have answers. We don't have to have understanding. We just need to be in this place. And sadness is an okay emotion for us to be in. And that is okay. And lastly, I think that we need to react as a Jewish community. You know, I was like speaking to a friend yesterday, and like, we need to react from a place of community. The Jewish community are not just going to sit here and just behave. We're going to react, and we're going to react from a place of care, and a place of love, and a place of support. And when we see someone that we don't know, we're going to express our support, and we're going to express our care, and we're going to express our love. Especially those who are going through difficult times. I think that it's crucial that our community are supportive, and we will come out. What I think what's most important is out of this, what we will come out is we will create initiatives. We'll create initiatives of support that will develop from our community. An act of extreme cruelty was expressed, and what we need to do is we need to counterbalance that with an act of extreme love, extreme support, extreme building. Someone tried to destroy, we're going to build. And that's really what we need to do. We need to build. We need to create a sense of love. And I think that we're all feeling that automatically because we're all equal victims over here, and that no one was immune, it didn't make a difference who you were. So at the moment we're naturally feeling like we need to support, we need to get together, but we need to go beyond that. And there will be time where what I want to do is like remember my feelings now and write them down. And then there'll be times where those opportunities will present themselves where we need to step out and build more and love more and support more. And what we need to go back is come back to that original emotion and lean on that emotion in order to build more.
Thank you. And maybe we should just spend a few minutes opening this up. I know like Mara grew up in Highland Park her whole life, and this came very close to many of you. And if anyone wants to share something, Doris?
So I just got off the phone with an 87-year-old Holocaust survivor that I visited. She lives right on the corner where it happened. She's recovering from surgery, and her son thought it'd be a nice idea to walk her over to the parade. She was right there when the shooting started, and somehow in her condition, she said, had to run with her son. As a child, she was in a field, and her mother was shot with multiple bullets. And she never imagined in her lifetime that again she would have to run from bullets.
Make sure they feel
I just sent her flowers and a card. She's not up for a visit, but I truly was at a loss for words. I didn't know what to say other than to acknowledge her trauma and see if she needed anything. But I honestly, I don't know what to say when someone goes through such a tragic, terrifying experience. So, and any advice, I'll be checking.
Well, I think what Gadi said is so key, and I think we forget this. We want to solve or fix, or we want to know what words can I say, but maybe just sitting with her and letting her share. Maybe that's what's needed right now. I think it's just being there. I think everyone today should probably make a phone call or two. You don't like, everyone is struggling with more than we would ever know, right? Because everyone is going through a lot in their own world, in their own mind. But people that are directly impacted, or even people that seem fine, just to reach out. I texted some people yesterday, just say, are you okay? Like that was it, 3 words, right? This one friend of mine, Dawn Pye, she had just landed somewhere. I think she's in Portugal or something. She works in Style Shack at the corner of where this happened. So she got off the plane, her phone was exploding. She didn't know what happened. So she saw my words, are you okay? And she called me and she said, I don't know what's going on, but I just need to hear from you what's going on. Because she knew something happened. Right. So her and her husband on, speakerphone, just calmly and just listen, like just told them, like, it's hard to say this to someone that's so, her worker is like, her whole world is there. And she's like, thank you so much. And now I'll do what I need to do. Like, it was very clear how, like, sometimes just calmly being there. There was silence in our phone call because there are no words. And she was able to, move forward with telling people. And I don't know, Doris, I just hold a hand and love, just give your heart. That's what you do best.
Sadly, not anymore. We're not about to have the we need life insurance conversation again, are we? No, we're getting coverage that we don't have to worry about. So you're calling about the $9.95 a month plan, going with that? I am. We are getting that $9.95 plan today. Is it time for you to call about the $9.95 plan? I'm John. increase 50 to 85. You can get guaranteed acceptance whole life insurance starting at just $9.95. Or no health question. But you can't. You know,
Mhm. Right, so we do have, you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I've been in touch with, there are two main organizations in Chicago, Jewish organizations in Chicago. One's called High Lifeline. There are two Jewish organizations in Chicago. One's called High Lifeline and the other is called Refuah Institute. And they're both mental health support organizations. I just got a missed call from, his name is Avi Tannenbaum. He's in Israel, who's a specialist in the field of trauma. I just read you his text that he sent me this morning. Because I think it's important. He's ready to get onto a plane.
Someone said.
Right. Yeah. So we're working on creating a response over here and enabling the L'chaim Center to be more of just a learning center and now to be a response center. I'm in the middle of coordinating, and really the question was, I'm speaking with Julie, and she was speaking to me like, a real question is, how soon do we try and create a get together? And this, I don't have a right answer for it. I'm willing to, but they're ready to send therapists, professionals who know how to deal with this as soon as we're ready. And my question really was, do we do it tonight? Do we do it tomorrow night? To create a weekly thing? I'm willing to hear your perspectives of what you want and what you need.
I'm sorry, everybody, we can't.
But just speak a bit louder.
Yes. Okay.
the information and freedom's information. I was very. Dial 911.
I think. I've lost. The message or heard from people is we can as a society. And I don't have to personally live through that. But so many people, family in the community, water, friend was both. If you really go to a restaurant, wait. Someplace for the old, you just. Well.
So I'm gonna. And when you ask them, my son. And he's looking at his holidays. And I said,
Oh, you know. What? I saw boarding recently, and everyone's are amazing. The Highland Park does have a special, I feel like it's a special tradition here with the parade. I haven't missed the parade. I think maybe 5 parades since I'm. Yesterday, we had a Weissman, and the last, my room was off parade. And so, I don't go to, I'm gonna say, I don't protect the parade. We didn't go. My brother. My daughter, actually, sophomore year English. Yeah, my daughter. Everyone's.
Do you think like a weekly, do you think like weekly with a social worker, just like,
My daughter is, her friends are strong, they're 21. They are. Sorry. Girl, who was from Long It's obviously a horrible.
oh,
I don't. Because
in Chabad in Highland Park. And this was what scared Rabbi Shimon was being canceled. The pastor today, the pastor. Rabbi Shimon being quoted in the New York, in the Times. They had what?
So let me just clarify. So the suspect during Passover, he went in to Rabbi Shanowitz, to Chabad of Highland Park. He went into the building. Rabbi Shanowitz he was in their building during services at Chabad of Highland Park on Passover. No, he's not Jewish. Not Jewish.
You could like, you see his tattoos on his face. I mean, when Rabbi Shanowitz saw the picture, he said he tried to get in, like, so it's just another layer of fear. I mean, honestly, he's he was a boy, a young man of hatred. So we don't know if this was targeted. We don't know. Hopefully the investigators will grill him and,
Everyone, hold on, calm down. Okay. We need to separate from the news and the politics to our community and our balance of emotional health. Okay, and getting caught up with the details is very important. Like, is not healthy. It doesn't help at all. In my opinion. Okay, I'm not a mental therapist, but I just don't get caught up in that. I really discourage it. Like, I'm not going to say who in my family were in front of the news the whole day. Well, I would take bits of information. Does it help? Okay, but I'm saying, like, what's important is to help process ourselves from an emotional perspective. It's really important to try and process ourselves from an emotional perspective and not get caught up with the details. We don't know whether it was an anti-Semitic behavior or this person was an anti-Semite or not. I promise you, people who are here, that we have taken certain steps to increase the security of L'Chaim Center in a number of major ways. We're working on that as we speak. I'll leave it at that. We're not laying by and saying, well, perhaps it wasn't an anti-Semitic perspective. Maybe they aren't anti-Semitic. We're being very active from that perspective.
even the day before, I mean, like literally the day before, Gadi installed a panic button here, like without even, we're always on alert.
We have a security committee and we're processing that and we're developing that as well. So I think that's A. B, but we don't know if this is, what is safe, what is not safe, and what is more safe and what is less safe. I mean, there were probably one of our most difficult conversations that Eve and I had was when Eve was going to a JWRP trip, to a Momentum trip to Israel. What was happening at the time? I don't remember. But
There's
it was
always
very
something
scary.
happening. There were stabbings. It's 2015, kitchen knives, like you couldn't protect yourself. Could you imagine? Like you couldn't walk through the streets of Jerusalem without the fear because there were numerous stabbings a day. So at the time, I mean, I think this is the story that you're going to share.
Yeah. So
I told Gadi, like, I can't go. Like, I can't believe it. Like, my anxiety was through the roof. And they'll never forget what Gadi said. He said, okay, I hear you. Okay, so don't go. He said, but I want to be there when you call your brother and your sister and like all of our family in Israel and tell them that it's safe enough for them, but not for you. And it made me think, like, I mean, anything could happen anywhere, right? which is gonna, I think we're gonna now transition to the topic for today, if that's okay. I'm gonna do a little bit of a class.
Yeah.
Unless anyone has anything else for Gadi. I'm so
Andrew
grateful
needs
Gadi
to-
came, but yes. Dr. Gadi. HP, for those of you, Hashgacha Pratit is divine intervention. Did you go? Were you there, Jen?
I want to say something.
Dropped the rifle when he was done to blend in with the crowd, walked to his mother's home, among many other things that we're learning here. Diane Hatfield, I know you were watching that too. What were you able to find out?
Things that stuck out to me in particular throughout several weeks.
That's a blessing that you say when you have a potentially life-threatening anything, like something, an accident. She's asking if she should say the blessing because her life was saved.
Yeah, so the question is, there is a blessing that we say that when a person goes through a situation of danger or person travels, does one say that? And it is a good question. I would really prefer to discuss this with Rabbi Yonah Reese, who's the head of the CRC, the Chicago Rabbinical Council. I'll discuss it with them. But what I can tell you is that we'll have a communal Hagomel on Shabbos. Okay, so that you can come and attend and join that and be part of it.
We all know where this panic button is.
So there are 4 panic buttons. They're not that advanced yet, but they're very loud. The goal of the panic button is not necessarily, I think that everyone has a device on them to call the police. This is not really to call the police, it's really to mobilize people who are in the building. And there are 4 of these around, okay? There's one at the door as you exit over there. There's one over here. We're going to do more of a display. We have someone who's usually our security agent who's in the back corner of the sanctuary, who watches everyone coming through. He has a button there and there's one by my desk. Just be prepared for it. Okay, sorry. That should mobilize people. So I didn't mean to frighten people, I apologize. But
We also have like an exit over there, an exit over there, so.
we will have a security update as soon as our committee is like, and more, this was installed on Sunday. Yes.
Liz is actually on our security committee, so.
We'll be able to present something once we have our plan in place. We're there. We're getting there. Okay. Apologize about the noise. I
Even
didn't
Gadi,
think it was that loud until now. I guess it is loud.
Eve,
It is not. It is not. Everyone has a
Eve?
phone to alert 911. I don't think that if God forbid something does happen, I mean, we need everyone out first. That's the first thing that we need. That's really the first goal. And everyone has a phone to call 911 to get them details.
But it's
Eve,
evolving. Nadine,
hi.
hi.
I couldn't hear a lot of the comments, but I wanted to say how lucky we should feel, how competent and how fast and how amazing the services of Highland Park in Deerfield, in Bannockburn, and all the services that hap to the tragedies that went on yesterday, how brilliant I think the people served the community and how lucky we are to live in this area and the hospitals and the doctors. I knew a lot of the doctors there and how amazing
So true.
everybody pulled together. And I think we should be very thankful and think of that, how lucky we are to live in this community. Because when I think of just a few weeks ago, what went on in Texas, and everybody was bumbling and the people didn't know what to do, I think, oh my God, if that would have happened here, do you know how many more fatalities there would have been? We are so blessed and we are so lucky that we live in this community.
you, Nadine. I'm so happy you said that. That's kind of the speech I gave my children this morning. Everyone was in a very bad mood, and there's clearly, like, you know, anxiety and fear like pulsing through every child and every adult. And I just kept saying, like, we need to be so grateful. So thank you. And just the fact, honestly, when we put it out there to the community and said, check in with us, and just to hear, like, just to see people checking in, I'm safe, like, you know, thank God. We were just waiting to make sure everyone in our community was safe. Obviously, any part of the community, there's circles, right? So we're all impacted by what happened. Someone from the North Shore Synagogue died. I mean, even though I don't know who she is, I mean, we're very connected. Our dear friend Angie Weinberg, worked with her for years and years. So our friend is suffering,
Right.
we're all suffering. So it just, you feel like the strength of the Jewish community, like we're all one, we're all connected. So thank you
Right.
for putting that down there, Nadine. That's so important. We need to kind of lean on all the good parts, the HP, the hashgacha pratit, the fact that you are okay, the fact that the Holocaust survivor that was right there is okay. Like, you know, my husband had a meeting there. He was supposed to be there at exactly that time. And in the end, I said, could you please meet me in West Rogers for a meeting at our kids' school? Last minute, he said, I'm coming. I mean, he was going to be right there. So he even showed me on the, you know, when you could zoom in to see like the street, he's like, I was going to be right there at that exact time. I mean, if we could all find like a bit of breath in, there's still the hand of God in all of this chaos, believe it or not. And that's actually what we're going to talk about now, if that's okay. I'm gonna do a little bit of a class.
Yeah.
Reach out to Gadi or to me. I'm actually, you guys know I'm going to Israel for about 2 weeks. I'm leaving on Thursday. The next 3 classes, 2 because I'm going to be in Israel, and 1 because I'm going to be driving my kids to camp on a Tuesday. Gadi will be taking over. I'm going to ask Gadi to come up with like a 3-week, like a mini course of some sort. Yes, but okay. But Gadi will do like a 3-part, because Gadi teaches in a very different way to me, but he's such an incredible teacher. So I'd love for him to do like a 3-part, like a crash course in, like, I don't know, whatever, the afterlife or anything that's, whatever he comes up with. If there's a request, and he could teach anything. So come back next Tuesday. It's going to be a little different, but I really hope you guys will show up. Okay, and we have yes, Marilyn.
I just want to mention to everybody, if anybody wants to do anything, there's in a pool from hospitals, blood banks for blood donors. So if anybody does that, please look into that. And the other thing that just occurred to me is maybe we could all do something or get tzedakah or something, because it comes down to being ready, and there is no safe places. But I can't believe that I'm saying this, but you also have to have some kind of emunah, because without that,
So we're gonna take that and we're gonna run with it for the next 10 minutes. Does everyone know what the word emunah means? Okay, emunah is faith, right? The root of the word aim it's a very feminine word because that's the mother, right? Just like we spoke a few weeks ago about compassion, and the root of that is rechem, which is the womb. So once again, we have this very feminine trait of faith. Okay, so and it's always been the women that have led through faith. It's so funny, like now I see someone walking, I'm like, who's there? I'm like getting ready to like press the panic button. It's the mailman. I know, we're all like a little on edge. So it's always been the women from the beginning of times that have pulled our people through every hard time, right? There were many people that wanted to give up along the way, like going back to like the times of Egypt. The men were like just giving up. They wouldn't even come home. They didn't want to have children anymore. Like it was the women that went and brought them, kind of picked up their morale. So we're going to talk about faith. So Sue, if whoever has the book, I'm actually going to start with the last quote in this chapter on faith, and I'm on like page 231. And this is so great, something to really put down here. This is Rabbi Eliyahu Lopian. He says, The body needs air. What is the air of the soul? Faith. The air of the soul is faith. And in a way, right? Because, you know, have you ever heard the expression, there are no atheists in a foxhole? Have you ever heard that expression? I don't know where it comes from. I just heard it growing up. What? World War I. Okay. What does that mean? What does that quote mean? Because it's not true. There are people that don't believe in God. There are many atheists out there. Yeah. Hmm. Right. Right. So it's this moment where you realize I am powerless. There's actually nothing I could do to protect myself. So you're all of a sudden, you're not focusing in on your power, you're focusing upwards on a higher power. Now, you don't need to call it God. You don't need to call it he or she or it or, you know, whatever you want to call it, however you relate to a higher power. That's what it's talking about. That is faith. It's something that even if we don't realize it, every human being has it. We all have it. It's in us. And especially as Jewish people, this is such a fundamental part of who we are. We're people of faith. How is it possible that we are sitting here after so many generations of being killed, murdered, tortured, you know, terrorized? We are a miracle, but it's been the faith that we all have that has carried us through the darkest of times. So faith is key. It's what's in our soul. This is the air of our soul, as he says. This is, and we know what it's like. I mean, yesterday I was cooped up in the house, and when it was all over, they found the guy and I processed, I said, I need air. Like I literally walked out of my house for the, you know, and I just needed to breathe, right? You know, like we physically need air sometimes. So spiritually we need faith. Okay, now this is actually really hard to talk about when things are hard, but it's the only thing to talk about when things are hard. So I'm gonna share, since I just found some old notes. This is from when I lived in Israel. And living in Israel, we lived there for 12 years. We lived there through wars and intifadas. My husband and I, we had 2 children at the time when there was a war, the war with Saddam Hussein. We had a sealed room in our little 2-bedroom apartment with, you know, plastic on all the windows. On the bottom of the door, we had gas masks, but we even had a gas mask for our baby, which was like a crib. Okay, this is how we lived. And I just remember at that time, first of all, this is going back like 15 years ago. I don't remember exactly how many years ago it was, but probably around like, you know, 17 years ago. We had 2 babies, and it wasn't doing me any service to be following the news, because I would just live with anxiety. If I knew exactly what was happening, and we all know what this is like. I mean, just think COVID. When COVID started, we were all anxious and watching the news. It wasn't helping us. So at that point, I decided, I'm not going to follow. I'm living in Jerusalem. This is my life. I'm with my people. I'm not running home. It's not safer anywhere else, right? I felt that protection. And I told my father at the time, who watches the news 24/7, to let me know. I needed to know anything. Like, let me know. I mean, I spoke to my parents 5 times a day. They were very absorbed with what was going on. Let me know if there's any immediate danger, threat, please let me know, right? But otherwise, I'm in a community that there's sirens that buzz when we need to go into the sealed room. I mean, this was our life. So I just remember at that time making a conscious decision to detach from all the chaos that wasn't serving me and to lean on my faith. And that served me, because I never felt so protected. I mean, and miracles. We all know, you know, you talk about September 11th, terrible atrocities, and also just as many, if not more, miracles and miracles. I was supposed to make the subway. I didn't. I stopped at Starbucks to get a cup of coffee. Whatever. I mean, there's so many numerous miracles. So let's give space for that. That there's a lot happening that we don't understand. So I'm going to share this. Really, this is something that I learned a long time ago. This is a mashal is a parable. It's a Hebrew parable of this great sage. His name was Rav Elchanan Wasserman, who was asked. He went through a lot. He was one of the students of the Chafetz Chaim. So this is pre-war Europe, one of the greatest minds in the Jewish world, and he survived the Holocaust. His 11 children and wife were murdered before his eyes. He saw such terrible, I mean, he has thousands of students. They were all murdered. He survived the Holocaust, but he had no one and nothing. And he comes to America to rebuild Judaism on the shores of America. And obviously the question, Lori, that we asked a couple weeks ago is, how did that happen? So he himself gives this parable. Now, if anyone else would give this parable, we would say, you cannot say that. But because sometimes you could hear things from a survivor that you can't hear from a regular person. Like Rebbetzin Esther Jungreis she was able to say so much more than I could ever open my mouth to say, right? She was like a tough cookie, but she survived the Holocaust. And they're just a different cut. So this is his story, his way of explaining it when he was asked. So he says that there is, he says, there was a man who knew nothing about agriculture, and he once met a farmer, a seasoned farmer who's been doing this his whole life, and they went out to the field together. And the farmer, the farmer is plowing up the field, right? Turning over the earth. And this guest, he's watching and he says, what are you doing? You're ruining this beautiful field. Like, why are you doing this? And the farmer says, just wait, just be patient. And then the farmer goes out and he takes a sack of beautiful grain and he throws it into the earth. And this man who knows nothing about agriculture says, why are you throwing away? Why are you planting these beautiful shiny seeds? And once again, the farmer says, just be patient. And then the farmer goes out after a few months, right, with this guy, who's this apprentice, and he starts cutting down all the stalks. And this onlooker says, like, you worked so hard. Why on earth would you now cut it all down? Like, finally something grew. You're chopping it down? And what do you think he said? Just be patient, right? Next, he goes to the mill, takes the sheaves, goes to the mill, and he says, now you're going to turn it into dust, right? And then the farmer collects this dust that he's ground and he brings it home, pours the water in it, he turns it into mud. Again, this guy's like, what is going on? And then he molds it and makes this beautiful loaf. And then he lights a match and this bystander is saying, stop, you've come so far. Now you're going to just burn up all your hard work, right? Because he doesn't understand. So, and before he knows it, there's this unbelievable smell that fills the home and the farmer takes out the end result, this beautiful loaf of bread. Okay, so that's the parable. So what is the way to understand it? Okay, so he says the farmer who understands and sees the end is God. God is the farmer. And the Jewish people, this is just about the Jewish people, but plug in anyone. We are confused. We are at a loss. Why? Why this? Why that? Right? We're standing on the sidelines. We have no clue what is going on. We only see how God, right, or whatever force is plowing and cutting and making dust and putting his people into the oven, which is what happened. Like, it's boggling to us, like boggles the mind. But God, or this higher power, views the end already from the beginning. He sees the end result, the fragrant loaf of bread that eventually will come out of all of this. So once again, I would never say that on my own, but this is the words of someone that has lived through tremendous trauma, and he sees it so clearly. all that we're doing, remember last week, the week before, we kept talking about how everything in this physical world has a spiritual representation. Everything that we're going through, there's something bigger. There's a bigger picture out there. So now I just want to give a little bit, and we're almost out of time, but I want to give a little bit of space to understand that all of our sages, all of our Jewish teachings, everything points us that we are now living in the darkest times of history. It's called the pre-Messianic era, the Yimot HaMashiach. And the way that our sages describe it is we are living through the birth pangs of the Messiah, that this is going to be the most troublesome period of history. Now, so very good. So there's actually 6,000 years, okay? We are at the last 200 years. We're at the end. So yes, so a lot of people say that was the beginning of this last era. And by the way, so we were very close with a survivor. His name was Rabbi Israel Tauber. You could look him up. He has many books. He survived. I've shared a lot of his stories. He lived till probably 90 years old. Tremendous mind. And he said that the only thing that got him through the Holocaust was the fact that everyone was saying, this is it. Mashiach is coming. If they didn't have that faith to hold on to, he said they would have all given up. I mean, he was 5 years old when he survived, like what he survived, what he saw in this little child's eyes, like what was he, but his father said, guys, hold on, Mashiach is right here. So that is what probably is the beginning of this period. But let's just think now for a second about what's going on. Let's think about yesterday. Let's think about our traumatized teenagers and our youth that are struggling so much. Yes, we are living a very comfortable life, very comfortable. You know, you go from your air conditioned this, your air conditioned that. We're such a privileged generation, but we are struggling more with mental health issues now than ever before. You cannot even get a therapist. You cannot get a therapist. They're booked solid. And the, I mean, I don't even want to go because we're all struggling in our own, I don't even want to say like depression, anxiety, where everyone has it in their homes, right? Everyone, I mean, it's a friend of ours, actually, she's an 18-year-old girl. She just wrote this very jarring piece. Like, it's almost like, I mean, I'm happy to share it with anyone. It's her experience in her like 18 years. How it's okay to take this meds, everyone's on it, you take this, take that, you know, don't overdo it, you know, you take it for, you know, all this. I mean, it's just crazy. Like, I read this and I felt so sad that an 18-year-old kid is so cynical about everything, like this is okay, just don't overdo it, we'll still put your name on the plaque, we'll still, you know, just like drinking and drugs and everything is what they're dealing with. Like the younger generation, we have no clue. When my teens are struggling, I just go into a place of such compassion because we thought we had it hard. They have it so much harder. So it's very interesting. So if you look at the prophecies that talk about these dark days to come, and let's not get so dark about it because we also know that at the end of it, right, if we're having birth pangs, then what's coming? A baby. That's good, right? So we're almost there. The Chafetz Chaim, the greatest man that lived really before the Holocaust in Europe, he would say, he first of all, he lived his life with his bag packed at the door, ready to go to Israel on eagle's wings, ready to hear the trumpet, the sound of the shofar, and he lived his life with his belongings packed. That's how he lived. And then when things got dark in Europe, he said, I hear the footsteps of Mashiach coming. I'm so excited and I'm petrified. This greatest man, I mean, his words, like he said, I want to live to see these days and I'm terrified to see these days. So let's just give a little space for the fear and all of that we're feeling right now, because the greatest minds from the last 100 years said this is it. And if you look at the prophecies, it all leads to this time. Arrogance, chutzpah, like brazenness, right? Like, do we see that in our world? Do we see that in the younger generation? Yes, right? Confusion, right? we don't need to look far to understand this is everything. Every prophecy that is spoken about is coming true. So let's try to pull out of this dark place for a minute. Let's end on a high. What could we do? Okay, let's think back to the darkest period of Jewish history. Who knows which one? I mean, we're not in a competition for darkness, but you know, the darkest period was really Egypt. 210 years of slavery in Egypt. We were almost lost as a people. We were barely holding on by a thread. We were almost completely assimilated into Egyptian culture, lost, okay? We got to the lowest level of immorality, and God said, I promised that I would never forsake these people. Since they haven't earned it on their own, I'm gonna pull them out. And God keeps true to his promise, and he saves our nation. Now, there are two ways right now. We are, once again, almost at this crossroad. We are in a very low, immoral place with humanity. Forget about the Jewish world. Humanity, we are not doing very well. There's so much hatred, pain, judgment, friction, just everything. I mean, right? We could go into like politics, everything. There's just the whole world is fragmented and in a pretty low place. And we could look at it as this. We could earn with our actions through kindness and giving and bringing light into the world, we could shift the tide. Okay, that's what we're trying to do over here. The other way is God saying, I will never forsake good people, not even good people. I would never forsake the Jewish people. Let's just talk about that because there was a promise that was made, right, to the Jewish people that we will be returned to our borders, right? We've been through a lot. We're a miraculous people. It's not going to be over now, okay? We're at the end. We're at the final, you know, we see the finish line almost. God is not going to forsake us, okay? We have that promise, and God might need to, I don't know. I mean, the bad way, good way is us earning it. The other way is in the nick of time being saved. Now, I mean, this is so dark and I'm sorry. I don't know how you guys doing with this. Let's just stop for a second for processing and questions. Like, is this new to anyone? Is this, I mean, we speak about it a little bit. We try not to go into such a dark place because we really believe that our good actions can bring us to a better place and fix our world. We're all about tikkun olam, healing the world, fixing the world, being that person that will complete the mission, right? That's what the Jewish people are always, we've always been about that, right? So let's just give 1 minute for if anyone has a question about everything I've said until now. I feel like Amy's like, I am never coming back. It's her first class. It's like doomsday. Okay. I think we need to, right now more than ever, we need to find that air to breathe. We need to strengthen ourselves in faith. We need to see what actions we can do because everyone wants to help and wants to fix. It's, you know, we feel powerless against all the cruelty out there, but I think it starts within. Our light shines very bright in a dark place. Okay, the world is very dark right now, so a very small act of light and kindness is tremendous. Listen, I live my life with faith. Faith is not always intellectual. Faith is sometimes blind. Judaism is all about asking questions and finding answers. There are answers for just about everything. I mean, some of the harder questions we struggle with, but there are answers, and we're supposed to look and we're supposed to search for answers that resonate and are meaningful for us. Now, at a certain point, we might not find the answers that we're looking for, and that's when we go from finding an intellectual understanding to going into a place of faith. And that's okay. That is okay. That might be what will carry us through the next couple of weeks or the rest of our lives. We might need to lean more on the faith and less on the understanding. Okay, so that's, I'm open for questions. We really didn't get through much in this chapter of faith, but yes, Stephanie? Yeah. Great. Right. So you're like action. Hmm. Mm. Okay, so what I'm gonna say to that, because I think everyone is with you, I think we have to be careful not to become angry, bitter people. Because, right, you're angry, we all feel that. We all feel that. And as Gadi said, give yourself time to be anger, to be in your anger, to be in your grief, to mourn, right? These are feelings that are, you're feeling it, acknowledge it, notice it, talk about it, scream and yell. I cursed, so I never curse. I swore so many times yesterday. I'm like, what is happening to me? It's just, that's normal. It's like, we're frustrated. We need to get rid but don't linger in that. Okay. So that's where, okay, we're gonna have some sessions with a social worker. We're going to, process. We're going to keep working together with community, with specialists, to really help us. And then hopefully amazing initiatives will be born from it, because that's what we're good at doing. We are so good at moving into action and to seeing a hole and filling it and fixing it. We're the people of Tikkun Olam. We fix the world, right? We partner with God. God leaves lackings in order for us to come in and to shine and to do our part. Okay, and God believes in us and trusts us to help him in this mission of completing the world and making it a whole place. So a lot of these things are, we feel powerless, right? A lot of them. I mean, so much bigger. Yeah. But what could we do? And that's where we have to start, right? And we could do a lot. In our limited way, we could make change.
Maybe we like that person that plants the oak tree, and it's not for this generation, it's for the next. Just
do you guys hear that? Do you know that very famous story in the Talmud? Is an elderly gentleman planting a carob tree, right? And someone comes and sees him planting, and he says, "What are you doing? Don't you know it takes 70 years to grow a carob tree? You're already an elderly man." And he says, "I'm not planting it for me. I'm planting it for the future generations." And that's a very Jewish concept. Okay, so here's our teaching for the day, because we didn't get to too much. So something to help. Okay, lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, which means it is not incumbent upon you to finish the task. You just need to do your efforts. So we might never see the fruition. We might never see a utopian society, but maybe our children will have a chance of living in a safer world, right? So we need to do our efforts. That's all we could do. And we also need to there has to be a place of letting go and saying, I have faith. Don't ever lose your faith. And we're all losing our faith in like mankind, right? We're like, seriously? But right. Terrible. Okay, so I'm let me give one more little bit of perspective, and then we'll stop for today. So in this time of year, the Jewish calendar, we're actually going into like this really hard period, like 3 weeks of sadness, culminating in the saddest day of the year, Tisha B'Av, which will be in about a month from now. So this is the energy that we all feel is very real. This is not like, we just brought in the month of Tammuz. It's a very sad month. So it's interesting that we're all feeling the energy of this time. Now, what I want to give, and just to end with a bit of hope and faith, which is really the topic that we wanted to bring out, is that when the sadness is over, okay, we get past the saddest day, Tisha B'Av, the weekend in the Jewish calendar right afterwards is called Shabbat Nachamu. And Nachamu is from the prophet Isaiah. Jeremiah. It says, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, which is God speaking as a prophecy saying, I will comfort you, my people. Doesn't say it once, says it twice. I will give you a double consolation. Okay. And after the sadness, God, so to speak, collects us together in a huge embrace and says, I'm going to give you consolation now. We just went through a hard time, but just know I love you. I care about you. I'm going to bring you together. We are going to get through this. Okay. It's okay. Okay. So I just love that right away we're picked up into this embrace and into this comfort, this time of comfort. And from there we go towards the new year and we go with this renewed faith and comfort that it's going to be okay. So right now we're in the darkness, but we know that, as soon as the darkest moment of the night comes, we have daybreak. Like the darkest moment of the night, the next second is when it starts getting light outside. So right now we're in the darkest, but just know that there's the morning is going to come and things are going to be okay. And we have God on our side and it's going to be okay. And we could struggle, as Gadi said, yes, now is time to ask questions and struggle and find answers. And there's also room to lean on faith, because without faith, we really have very little, right? That's how people get through any hard time, right? They lean on their faith. They find deep within some way to have faith. And that's where we have to be right now. Hope and faith and action, right? And prayers for people that are struggling, and support and acts of kindness, and whatever it is. There's a lot. We have a lot that we should and could do right now. But just understand that it's all part of a very, very big plan. And you're a part of it. We're all a part of it. So I'll stay for questions. Yes. Okay. Got it. Julie just announced it. Yeah. And could they bring teens? Could they bring their kids? Like 6 to 7, and we start at 7:30. No, 7:30. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Okay, great. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hold up the fort while I'm away. That's right, that's right. Hannah. Good. Okay, yes, take this one forward. Thank you. I love you too. We'll see you soon. Bye. All right. Amen. Amen. Yes, this is my mom.
Not until the 25th. I had to think about that for a minute. Your donation. I know. You know what? I actually no. I actually reached out to her again the other day because I had to reach out because we're having trouble with our website. And let me see if I have an answer. Yeah, I understand. Nope, I don't have an answer yet. But she's on my thing to reach out today. Like we had the holiday that I did it like the middle of last week. Yeah, no. Thank you. I will. I got it. It's on my radar. I won't let that happen again. And we'll have a solution by then. I'm sorry, I'm not following what event. Oh, yeah. I think it was at 6 o'clock. Let me look. I think it was at 6 o'clock. You mean at North Shore Congregation where the woman died from? I mean, yes, I think it's at 6 o'clock. I'll look. Hold on. I don't know what time it is. I thought I had it in one of the chats, but I don't. You want me to look it up on their website in a minute? Yeah. I mean, we could do it a little bit earlier, 5:30 to 6:30, only because we have the 7:30 event with the women. I know, we just got to get ready for the, yeah.
Short. I feel like they're almost like the honorary. Because I feel like things like I feel like I've seen her. Kind of. And you just
So, yes. Yeah. I am. Later. Oh my God. That's there. Oh, you're not. Okay. She's so not ready.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of what he said and he changes his mind so much that. That's fine, let's change anything. Yeah, professional, or mental health specialists. Well, I just spelled that wrong. I hate not having my, it does, but I got it. I don't have my mouse, so it's hard. You know what I mean? Melissa? Oh. Julie, yeah. Julie Ann's flavor. Yeah, give me a minute, I think I do. Gotti, do you have a minute just to look at this? I didn't remember. I'm sorry, Rabbi Gotti. I call you Gotti, but in public I should call you Rabbi Gotti. It's taking a minute. It's so slow. I think it's It's our home. It's our. Yeah, she was well loved in the community for sure, for sure. I never met her, but I know her name and now hear all these stories. I didn't say exactly what you said. I went like kind of in and out, so. Thank you, Stephanie. So good to see you back in our world. What are those? Should I say teens and adults are welcome, not all ages. We don't want an 8-year-old necessarily. Yeah, okay, all right. Is this good? Can I just hit go? It's not exactly what you said. You want to change anything? Yes, of course. It's gonna be a little bit, I don't have my mouse, so. Oh, it's here, sorry, you gotta go like this. Nope, no. You type on the side.
I just joined months.
Much better.
Too many words, like, yeah. Hey, good, Professor. Sorry, too many things are going on inside in my head right now. So, okay, hold on a second. So, give me a minute, if you could.
Well, that's kind of fun. I wanted to, which is like.
Can I call you back in 5 minutes? Let me call you back in 5 minutes.
I keep saying,
First of all,
I'm. No. I think like really? Oh my gosh, that. It's gonna start like this. Oh my gosh. I on my own on Sunday and I had to get a picture for my kids and I was like, I'll get one like comfortable here. So I get to snap a picture. Yeah, very tall. That's so she's like, no, leave right there. I'm over.
Jonas tonight at our home center for a moment of prayer.
Mm.
You know, you were there when I showed those jellies. Like, you were 5. It's time to move on.
I just said that. I'm like, I didn't know jellies were bad.
ordered things on my came over while I was there. Well, no,
I'll hear what you're.
like she I think the movie was like $59. And then thank you. Thank you.
I like when you don't have to layer 20. Right.
Layer turn over.
Right. Hi.
nowadays, they're like 20 years ago, you couldn't get a dress like this. Like, you had to wear like short sleeve t-shirts, a shell under, like, so much harder, but now it's.
Okay. Maybe we should put it at the also on I keep forgetting.
Oh, really?
The crisis hotline. Okay.
Oh, you know what I mean? This is about tonight, and then I can add another. Wait a second. Come on. Okay. A new
Oh,
box.
perfect.
Yeah, I'll just change the color of it.
Let's just leave it high 5.
But
855-3-1. Should we say High Laplands 24-hour hotline is available, or should we just leave it?
No, I mean, it's obviously, it's 24 hours. I'll make it a little bit bigger.
oh wait.
Stephanie, the new one. Okay, for sure.
She was on your trip like a few years ago.
Yes.
Oh. Here we go. Then we just want. Yeah, it is.
So this guy
Schwartz.
Oh, but that might be a lot.
And if it's ticket, and if it's, is it a ticket for him or a ticket for him and his friend? Yeah.
You agree that right now this is all the, anything anyone think about it, but in 2 days, like if you bring them in, do some fun. Process, but this is available.
No, I think we're,
Right away. Why don't you see, first of all, let's see if people show up today. And then maybe ask them what they think. If, I mean, like for this, was it, no, we're talking about your child being.
there was Stephanie Orsi and then Stephanie Bronstein.
Are traumatized. So I'm wondering if like, I'm wondering if like we ask the communities to like round their kids up. Like
Stephanie said her kids are coming. I mean, Aiden might come, I don't know. Doubt it, but I'll ask him. I'll invite him to come.
Well, they just did not, because she was. I got a new walk to go. So. Yeah. That's.
Oh my goodness, this is so.